Hey, welcome back. Today we're going to talk about songwriting, specifically a really common songwriting mistake when it comes to writing melodies. And I'm going to demonstrate this mistake with 3 different examples of popular songs. See if you can spot the mistake before I tell you what it is. If you want to play along, you can pause the video, leave a comment with your guess, and then resume. Before we jump in, however, if you are a songwriter and you haven't seen my free songwriting masterclass, I'd love to give it to you for free. It documents my process of going through this silly challenge where I challenged myself to write 50 songs in 12 weeks. It was life-changing for me, and there were a lot of cool lessons that I learned. You can check that out for free at homestudiocorner.com/50, as in 50. Okay, let's jump in. Coming up are clips of me playing 3 popular songs, but I'm changing the melody to demonstrate this mistake. See if you can spot what specifically that mistake is. The third one should make it super obvious if you haven't guessed by then.
If everything could ever feel this real forever, if everything could ever be this good again, the only thing I ever ask of you, gotta promise not to stop when I say well. So long ago I don't remember when. That's when they say I lost my only friend. Said she died easy of a broken heart disease. As I listened through the cemetery tree. Blackbird singing in the dead of night. Take these broken wings and learn to fly all your life. You're only waiting for this moment to arise.
Okay, hopefully you've logged your guess. Here's the answer. Each of those melodies follows the bass line.
Everything could ever be this real forever.
Super boring. So what's the deal? Why did that come across as so boring? A couple of reasons. So I grew up in a family. My dad has this big, beautiful bass voice. He always sang bass in the choir, and he was always humming the bass line to whatever music we were listening to. So much so that I do it now without even realizing it. We'll be riding in the car, and my wife will say, "You're doing it again." I'm humming the bass line. For me, it's a music theory exercise. I'm humming the bass line, but I'm also like using the bass line as my foundation point for figuring out how this song goes and for playing songs by ear. So I literally, when I listen, I'm humming, but I'm actually humming and thinking the number 6 5 4 5 6 5 1. 7 1 5 6. Like it's a sickness at this point. But I'm just doing it subconsciously at this point all the time. So I'm very locked into what the melody is. That's, as a guitar player, that's what I'm thinking is what's the bass note for the next chord I'm playing. That's just kind of the way my brain works. So if I were to play bass, I'd be solid. The problem though is bass lines, as cool as they are and as necessary as they are, don't make for great melodies usually. So if your melody is feeling stale, is feeling boring, check to see if you're following the bass line. It's a really easy thing to do because if you're like me, you're already thinking in terms of bass line. You're almost humming it in your head. Oh yeah. Everything could ever be this way forever. It's a natural thing to do, and if you're not careful, you'll end up having these songs that just follow the bass line, and it's a missed opportunity. All those songs that I just played, if you know the original, the melody is really great. It does not follow the bass line. Doesn't mean it doesn't share notes with the bass line occasionally, or even a few notes at a time sometimes, like Blackbird. Those first few notes kind of follow the bass line. Not exactly, but you get the idea. It somewhat follows it, but then when you get into this, it's just ridiculous. Da, 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 da. Like that sounds like we're in a barbershop quartet singing the bass line. That's not typically where I hear people do it, but I'm in this unique position. I've been teaching music production for 15 years now, and I've gotten to do lots and lots of critiques of people's productions. And typically we're doing mixed critiques, but oftentimes it goes a lot deeper than that. I'm critiquing the recording, the production, and even the song itself. And a common problem that I see in songs, my initial reaction is, this melody feels boring. And if I dig in a little deeper, I realize, oh, the melody is just following the bass line, and that makes it more boring. I mean, you tell me, which one of these sounds more interesting, engaging, and like something you would want to sing along to?
So long ago I don't remember when. That's when they say I lost my only friend.
Or,
so long ago I don't remember when. That's when they say I lost my only friend.
see that note, I think it even ends on the bass note. That's when they say I lost my only friend. So we're not saying avoid the bass line notes at all times, but we're saying be more adventurous. The bass note is a lot of times the root note of the chord that you're playing. So if you're only following the root notes, you're missing out on all the beauty of the thirds and the fifths of the chord. And that leads us perfectly to the main point of this video, which is I want to share with you 2 strategies to help you navigate the melodies in your song, to punch up the melodies, to keep them from being boring snooze fests. I already gave you one strategy, which is don't follow the bass line, but here are 2 more. First, check for movement. Does your melody move? Or does it kind of stay on one note, or on just like this note and maybe the note above and the note below? So it's not really doing any sort of movement. There are times and places where singing one single note can be super cool. But oftentimes, if you're getting the sneaky suspicion that this melody is boring, try moving it around more. So there are kind of 2 types of movement you can play with. Incremental step movement, where you just go ba da 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 da, like you're just kind of going up and down the scale trying to find a little melody. Or the other thing you can do is try to add some jumps in. So long ago I don't remember when. That's kind of a walk down. That's when they say I lost my only friend. That last part has some jumps to it. So what are ways that you can add a jump of even just a third or a fourth up or down to the melody, just to have it move a little bit and take us to a place that's unexpected? You may think, no, Joe, this is music, this is art. I shouldn't be poking around thinking I'm going to add a major third. You know what? Try it. You may find that there's something really cool there. And what you're doing perhaps isn't working. Try something new. So play around with movement, move it up, move it down, and then play around with jumping to different notes. You may discover something really cool that you would have never discovered otherwise. Tip number 2, change the starting point. So it's natural to want to start your melody on the root of whatever chord you're playing. So if you're playing a C major chord, it's natural to want to start with the C. If you're doing that a lot, you may A, be following the bass line like we already talked about, and B, you may be missing out on some cooler melodies by starting on a different note. There are 7 notes in a typical major scale. Try all of them. Common places to start would be the 3rd or the 5th, but sometimes starting on the 4th, so it starts off sounding sustained, can be cool. Starting on the 7 can be weird. Starting on the 2 can have a cool vibe. So even if you're only starting there briefly and going back to a more acceptable note, it can make for some interesting changes in melody. So if I'm working on something and I love the guitar part and I'm not sold on the melody, I'll just change my starting note and then start playing around with melodies. So for example, okay, let's say we got a progression, we're going over it in this A minor F C G thing. So I might want to sing something like that's just hanging around the C. So it's just 3 notes that I'm playing. It's kind of cool. I kind of like it. But if I'm feeling like I've been singing that for 2 days and I'm not coming up with something that really grabs me, then maybe just change the starting note. So I could change it to an A, which is the root of the first chord, or maybe I start it on something like let's start it on that D and see what happens. So I'm starting off with this sustain thing, this that resolves on the next chord. That's interesting. We play with that for a little bit. Then we say, maybe start on like the E. So maybe that's like 2, 3, 4. Interesting. So starting up there, it's higher, but it's also interesting. And then we can keep going like, okay, let's start on an F. All right. It all just lends itself to moving in a different direction. It's similar, right? It's not 4 or 5 different songs that I've written just now. Those could all be melodies that I reuse in different sections of the song. Maybe those are 4 different melody lines for the 4 lines of the verse. I don't know. But that's a cue that I give myself regularly of just start with a different note and see what happens. Start with an A. I like that too. So I get goosebumps just thinking about it because there are endless melodies. Yeah, you might think, oh, I'll never come up with anything interesting. Just start with a note, exhaust your options starting from that note, and then just move it up a step or down, or pick a different note at random in the scale and then start singing from there. It's wild to me what happens when I allow myself to just sing some nonsense and see what comes out. And I've got a bonus tip number 3 for you. When writing your melody, typically try to make the chorus melody go higher. So those things I just sang up on the higher notes, like starting on the E, that's probably a better chorus melody than a verse melody. The song instantly has more energy in the chorus by simply taking the melody up a little bit. All right, that wraps up this video. 2 things for you. 1, if you haven't checked out my free songwriting masterclass, go to homestudiocorner.com/50. That's 50 to access that for free. And if you haven't seen this video on this thing that changed my songwriting forever, watch that now. Thanks for watching. See ya.